Thank you for joining us for another episode of Maybe We're Projecting. I'm Patrick White, and as always, I have with me...
I'm Genevieve Radasti.
I'm Tom Noblock.
And I'm Joshua LeBure. So, I'm just curious to start off with, have you guys seen anything good lately?
I've seen something amazing if we want to talk about it. I went to Film Streams last night for the Dundee Hundy and saw Metropolis with the Anvil Orchestra playing alongside the movie, and it was an amazing experience, I think, for everyone involved. Leaving the theater, so many people would ask me, have you seen this before? Wasn't that just, oh my gosh. And my seat was vibrating almost the whole movie. It was almost immersive. So if you're gonna see a 2.5 hour long silent movie, that was the way to do it, for sure.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I saw that the first time in high school on one of those roll-in TVs.
Oh, really?
That's not the way to watch it.
I watched it on YouTube, so also not the way to watch it. It's true.
I was jealous of everybody's Letterboxd posts.
I will echo what Genevieve said about Metropolis. I was there last night as well, had a wonderful time. And then this morning, I watched The Electric State, which we'll get into later on, and boy, do I have thoughts.
Me too.
Last night, not really fitting with the cinema element of the show, I had an itch to rewatch that Nathan For You, where he makes the thing in the hotel room, so if parents want to have some personal time, the kid doesn't hear anything.
That's a great episode.
That's maybe my favorite episode, but that's the most recent thing that I watched, and it's still hilarious.
There's a teaser trailer out for season 2 of The Rehearsal now, and I'm very excited.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
it doesn't tell you anything.
Perfect.
But I'm excited. For me, in this past week, I've watched a few good things. I rewatched The Green Ray by Eric Romer. Love that film. I hosted a screening of Grey Gardens, and no one at the screening had ever seen it.
Oh, wow.
And so it was really interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, it was really interesting hearing the responses because I don't think that people knew what they were getting into with that, which is, for its cultural relevance was surprising. Mm-hmm. And also, just want to shout out the new Netflix show, which I'm going to, Netflix every now and then really nails it. And Adolescence is an incredible show. There's 4 episodes. Each one is all done in one long take.
Oh, wow.
And the acting is incredible. The cinematography is incredible. The story is just...
As a mother of 2 boys, I'm terrified of that show.
Yeah. It would be really terrifying for a parent.
Right. Oh, boy.
Well, let's get into the films that we're talking about this week.
Sounds good.
So how do we do that?
All right.
Somebody starts talking about it.
Yeah.
So we've had 2 Steven Soderbergh movies this year, and it's not even halfway done with the year, not even a quarter into the year, really, with Presents and Black Bag. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about it.
Well, and they're interesting, too, because they're both
written by David Koepp, who probably most people would know as the writer of Jurassic Park and The Lost World. He's kind of Spielberg's go-to blockbuster guy.
And the Mummy remake.
The Mummy remake.
With Tom Cruise.
And he directs movies sometimes, kind of odd ones. Like he directed that Ghost movie with Ricky Gervais, A Stir of Echoes. Ghost Town. And so ghosts are a recurring element in his filmography, not for Soderbergh, though. I think it's Soderbergh's first foray into horror, or at least kind of a horror genre exercise with Presence, which is a ghost story told from the perspective of the spirit. And so Soderbergh's holding the camera, he's going through the house as the spirit itself, which was a really, I thought, fascinating sort of visual technique, but also I thought it sometimes was at odds with the script that Koepp had written. Mm-hmm. In particular, for me, the thing that I latched onto was through the perspective alone, it formed interesting sort of meaning as you're making assumptions about who is this spirit, why is it in this house, why does it go to certain rooms?
Sure.
So, it would go back to the closet in the little girl's room. And so I was coming up with my own story for something happened in that closet, that's where we're going with all of this. And then we have this totally different reveal by the end that's more of kind of a goofy David Koepp twist.
Sure.
And so it almost felt like the 2 of them were making a different movie, which is my central complaint. Even though I did enjoy it.
Yeah, I think overall I thoroughly enjoyed the film, and I think that it was a really interesting experiment. This is one of the things I love about Steven Soderbergh and why he's a good companion for David Koepp, because they both seem to be experimenting, but they also have had very big Hollywood successes, so they're able to do things that maybe other filmmakers who are more adventurous do not, and they haven't lost their adventurous spirit, so I really appreciate that. The formal approach to Presence I thought was incredible. Where I think it falls a little bit is in its performances, and not maybe because of the performances themselves, but because of the formalistic approach. I don't think they changed the approach to the acting, and so it felt very stilted to me. And I think that that is kind of fixed with Black Bag, the other film they did together, which is kind of like why I thought they were interesting to come out so close to each other, because I think you really see how editing affects performance and how Steven Soderbergh directs, where, you know, I think a different approach to the performances with the very long takes that Presence does. I think that it needs a different approach to the acting. And I think that those were at odds for me, and why I think that although I did enjoy the film, I loved the script, I loved the formalistic approach, I think that the performances suffered because of it.
I will defend Lucy Liu, though, because at first I agree with you. There were stilted moments in Presence. But some of it was explained later in the movie where I was like, oh, that's why you're acting kind of weird. You know, there were aspects of that, of the plot, affecting the performance as well. But Lucy Liu really took a kind of despicable character and really made me feel for her by the end of the movie.
Yeah, I thought that last beat with her is really good.
I shivers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is appropriate for a ghost story.
It does come together at the end, but I do think that throughout I was a little distracted by it. And I think this is something I've seen with Soderbergh and his more experimentation before. I remember seeing Bubble for the first time. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but it was one of his experiments when digital cinema was just becoming like a thing. So, you know, David Lynch did Inland Empire on like, you know, consumer, like prosumer grade cameras.
Right.
And Indigent was a production company at the time that they were taking big directors, making very small budget digital cinema. You know, this is when all big productions were still using film, and digital cameras didn't look great, so they all have this like wonderful, like kind of lo-fi look. But Wim Wenders did a film.
Tape with Richard Linklater.
Yeah, Tape. Steve Buscemi did one with Casey Affleck and Liv Tyler called Lonesome Jim. That was like one of my favorite movies at the time. And anyway, it was interesting to see Steven Soderbergh come in with Bubble, because that was one of the first films that I was like, okay, maybe he's not great at directing actors. And he needs like great actors in his films to bring their charisma and stuff, because I feel like he's maybe more of a formalistic director as far as technique.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think you see
I
that.
don't know if he's an actor's director.
I think you see that difference in Presence versus Black Bag. Presence does have a younger cast too, so there's maybe an inexperience or just, you know, less years than say Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett and so many wonderful
It's not a movie
stars.
star movie, also, right?
That's very true. Yeah, absolutely. Those young actors are really holding that film together. The interesting thing about these two movies is how different they look in terms of the cinematography. Obviously, there's the point of view, but it's even just like the lighting. It's quite brilliant to see how impressive he was able to just like separate these two films. Like, they look like films that were directed by two different people. And I'm thankful that we have them. We were having kind of a pre-conversation about the nature of the movie industry right now. I'll take 100 Presences and Black Bags that are maybe a little flawed in areas over some of the big blockbusters out there, right?
Absolutely. I mean, Presence, I still, to be fair, I still love Presence.
Oh, I'm right there with you on Presence.
So
in
I
terms of
think
acting and the awkwardness that exists.
Yeah, but I think going to Black Bag, what I noticed is that Steven Soderbergh is such a great editor.
Mm-hmm.
My theory of Soderbergh is that at heart he is an editor.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like he loves to just sort of experiment. He happened to sort of get his start as there was this auteur reconstruction, so he sort of fell into this director trap. Trap, you know, he's doing fine. It's not so bad. But, I think really he just loves to put together a story. He loves to sort of put all the pieces together, and so he builds all the pieces, and it's just kind of like whatever pieces he maybe hasn't put together before is what's guiding him. But editing is the whole point, and I think that's where we really see Black Bag is a really well-edited movie and a very edited movie compared to Presence, which is not.
Yeah.
So true. Yep.
Because I think where those performances suffered was because the camera is like floating, which is great. It's what makes the movie. Whereas in Black Bag, he was able to really fix that pacing and able to, and then you see what he's doing with the performances in both films, and I was like, oh, but it's really made in the editing as far as like embracing the kind of stiltedness for like, but still making it feel like it has a little bit of a better pace.
In some ways, that's really a good defense for those actors in Presence, is that he could not cut together their performance,
Yeah.
you know? If
I
they
don't
had-
think it was the
So
actors.
that's really amazing.
Yeah, because I don't think it's the actors. Lucy Liu's incredible. All the actors in that film are incredible, and
It just might not be his bag.
yeah, I think that it's just the fact that he wasn't able to go in and edit the performances, because editing when you're shooting traditional coverage is a huge part of making the pace of the film and making the performances in the edit. And I think that the approach to him as a director in those long takes needed to be different.
That makes me appreciate it more. What a risk.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I don't think Soderbergh cares that much about the story. He's never really that invested in any of his movies. Sometimes it doesn't matter that much. And I think Black Bag, like the actual espionage, I don't know that it's that interesting, but the rhythm is just so fun and so charming. And it's the only movie I've seen this year that I want to go back and rewatch and keep going back to. And I don't care about the plot at all. I don't think he cares about the plot. And so that's a testament to the way that he puts it together.
It's funny you say that because my experience with Presence was very similar to yours, where I was forming the story on based on what I was seeing and, you know, just the direction I thought it was going. Black Bag, I was like locked in because I'm like, I feel like I have to be locked in. I'm gonna miss something about this whole espionage thing. But I take your point, and you're not wrong.
A bunch of pretty people.
It's the rhythm.
Things,
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
It sounds great.
The best kind of movie.
Beautiful. I thought,
Truly.
yeah, I'll say the approach to Black Bag, I loved that it was like, you know, spy movies have become action movies, right?
Yeah.
And this was a spy movie, but done in a way that felt very fun and loving and human. And even though the characters like seem really cold, there's such a warmth under the film, and it's such a fun kind of almost heartwarming film. Really, it's kind of earnest.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's a sweet film.
Did you think of The Killer at all?
I mean,
with Black Bag.
I couldn't help but think of it just because of Michael Fassbender.
Yes,
but I don't think that there's really any.
I know.
Yeah.
But just the
It's just his
coldness of the
face, yeah.
performance and the nature of him being a spy and the secrets that he's keeping and the protection. That's an element of The Killer as well. He's protecting or seeking vengeance really against those who wronged his significant other in The Killer.
What's funny to me about that is Black Bag ultimately is this sort of heartwarming story about monogamy.
Sure.
And the Killer, I don't think it even is really vengeance, because in The Killer he's an assassin, and of course somebody attacks, tries to kill his wife or girlfriend. And he ostensibly it's a mission of revenge, but I think it's really because he missed that shot and that started it all. It's him trying to convince himself that he's still as good. He's not a normie, right? And in the end, he has to sort of confront his own lack of skills.
Yes.
But it's not this warm story. It's a very cold, mean story about this guy, and that's maybe the difference between Fincher and Soderbergh.
Yep.
I was about to say, if you gave me the same script from those two different directors, I would still want to do it, just because working with either of them must be night and day.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Well, and forgive me, I'll bring The Killer into a conversation any chance I get.
I love The Killer.
And there's also a little bit of a Venn diagram where David Koepp wrote Panic Room, which was directed by David Fincher.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So
6 Degrees of Fincher. I love
there
it.
you go.
Is kept going back to Jurassic Park? Is he doing this new one too?
Yes.
That's wild. That he did these two films. Maybe that gives me hope that this rebirth will actually be good.
Could be.
We'll see.
We'll see if Soderbergh ever takes on a Jurassic Park, Jurassic World.
I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah.
When Eric was 7, we took a trip to Leech Lake.
That must have been nice. Were there leeches in the lake?
Yes, Eric had some between his toes.
Wait, Eric was bleeding?
Why are you asking me that?
What does him bleeding have to do with...
Stop. I've made you angry.
I'm not.
Hi, you need some help with the groceries?
No. What's tonight?
Prayer group at Redeemer. You want to join?
No, thank you. I just want to understand why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling.
There's more than just you involved. We don't want these wounds to get infected.
Thank you for your guidance. It means a lot to me.
Look up a pastor's job description. The word guidance is the first thing you'll see.
I think I'm really starting to understand more about the Lord's path for me.
What are you understanding?
More about the Lord's path.
I believe
This all happened for a reason. I know it.
You should leave yourself open to healing and pray.
Oh, stop talking to me like that. I'm not a child.
I don't want to talk about what happened to my son.
I feel the same way.
Your son isn't gone, Janice. Your son is alive.
You're gonna come through the other side of this, and everything's gonna be better. Do you believe me?
Eric killed those boys. He shot them.
So Eric LaRue, Michael Shannon's directorial debut, which is something, watching him as an actor, I was very much looking forward to this. And in some ways I was disappointed, but in other ways I was really impressed with how he handled ambiguity and how he handled his actors, and it really is an actor's movie.
Oh, I agree. And I think that, have either of you had a chance to see it?
No, we haven't.
Okay, so yeah, Eric LaRue, I got to see it at the Omaha Film Festival, and it was kind of not even on my radar. I didn't know Michael Shannon had directed a movie. It stars Judy Greer, it stars Alexander Skarsgård, and there's, I'm trying to remember.
Judy Greer, Alexander Skarsgård, Tracy Letts, the
Tracy
playwright,
Letts,
has a
yeah.
moment in it. Yeah, which he kills it. Tracy Letts always does, though. He's a great supporting actor to have in your movie.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to think of any other big names, but I think other than that, it's a lot of character actors, which kind of warmed my heart because Michael Shannon, we know him for playing characters, not usually the lead. He's usually the flavor to a movie. So it was really nice seeing a full cast of these character actors that he knows through theater, like Tracy Letts.
Absolutely, and I think that the film, for me, just really caught me off guard, and it kind of deals with this, these parents of this kid who is in prison. You don't really know why. You kind of find out as the film goes along, and he did something atrocious, essentially, and it's how these parents are dealing with it, because they essentially lost their child.
Right.
And they're dealing with the fallout. And Alexander Skarsgård here is just unlike I have never seen him like this.
Oh, that's
He's this
interesting.
meek, kind of broken person who's kind of involved in this like evangelical kind of cult.
Yes, yeah, he gets into this. It's not a mega church; it's a fairly small church, but it seems to be a cult of personality around Tracy Letts' preacher or pastor. And you know what's funny is this is actually my second Alexander Skarsgård movie where he just plays a really kind of pathetic man. In Mariel Heller's Diary of a Teenage Girl, he plays the young girl's much older lover, basically. And in that movie, I just thought he was so pathetic. So seeing him like this, I was like,
I do love that.
So like he's much more broken in this movie and a lot more sympathetic in this movie, I thought. So it was kind of nice to see Alexander Skarsgård be able to play with that character without you hating him the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Because Alexander Skarsgård in Diary of a Teenage Girl, I think he is a pathetic character. But at first he's riding that line between you're supposed to understand why people would be attracted to him.
Right, he's hot.
Yeah. But this one, he's just so like dissolved, and he just like feels like a shell. And it's so interesting seeing him after, the Northman, playing these like people in Succession who are so confident, and just like all of these different movies. And now he's just this meek person in this small film, opposite Judy Greer, who is just, she's incredible, like doing her, role as a mother, just really struggling with understanding what happened.
Right, and not knowing how to feel. And I think one thing that is amazing about this movie is it is very fearless in the way it portrays organized religion. In some ways it's heavy-handed, because one pastor is incredibly incompetent in my view, and the other one is kind of culty. And so that's real sometimes though. And so it felt very real, and I don't think a lot of directors and writers would go there.
I would say that's like the church I grew up in.
Right.
Our head pastor was a cult of personality. Our youth pastor was a just real pathetic person.
Thought you were going to have to bleep something out there.
Yeah, me too.
But so I think that I was attracted to it from that, but I'm curious why you were disappointed.
I guess for me, the thing is, because it was an actor's movie, sometimes watching people grieving isn't that interesting. Like, I thought it was very well done. I thought it was very well acted. But there were times where we were with Judy Greer so much and feeling that weight on our shoulders that after a while I was just like, I am tired. I want to take the weight off my shoulders. So I guess for me, it just wasn't very dynamic until the end, and then my mind was kind of blown. Yeah. So I think if you're willing to sit with that heaviness, this movie is for you, but I worry it might not find a wide audience just because it is very heavy material with not a lot of relief.
And I agree that it probably won't find a wide audience, but it should.
Yes.
Because I think that I was there for it, and it was on my shoulders, and I felt it, and I loved it. But let's move on.
Well, I was just going to point out we have a Skarsgård connection because the guy who gets killed at the beginning of Black Bag is the bald Skarsgård, whose name I don't know beyond bald Skarsgård. So
Stellan?
That's another Skarsgård.
Oh wait, there's another one.
It's not Bill. It's not Stellan.
That's funny.
It's a secret fourth Skarsgård.
He's the less attractive one. So he's the guy who gets killed in the spy movie at the beginning.
Interesting. Okay.
Beautiful.
So we have another Skarsgård movie we could talk about. Keep it going.
Let's talk about Nymphomaniac. He's a little behind on that one. It came out a while ago now.
We're bringing it back.
Speaking of Nymphomaniac.
Oh boy.
Let's talk about our big movie we have to talk about this week.
Oh, yes. The Electric State is one.
Even just saying.
Do I sound irreverent already? I've been accused. Sometimes my tone has been described as irreverent, and I don't always mean it to be, but I don't have a ton of reverence for this movie, which I haven't seen. So, to be totally fair, it's a big movie from the Russo brothers, who, as we were talking about before we were filming, they've made some of our favorite stuff. And I'm not referring to the Avengers movies, but Arrested Development. They did the pilot for Arrested Development.
Judy Greer. They directed a bunch of Community episodes. Great sitcom. I mean, some formative sitcom directors of some of the best television that's certainly happened in our lifetimes, maybe ever. And then they've transitioned into directing these big movies. So of course they did the Captain America, two of the Captain America movies, then 2 Avengers movies. 3 of the Captain America movies? I can't. No, you're right.
I'll defer to you.
It's 2.
Okay.
It will be 3 soon, though.
And then after the Avengers, in the interregnum between Avengers movies for them, they did a couple big Netflix movies. And so The Electric State is their latest one, which of course, as I said, I have not seen, but I understand it was a huge budget, just massive in scope, dystopian story, and that nobody in the world seems to like it.
Where do we start? I mean,
right.
Collective sigh, I think, is where.
Yeah.
I can't remember a movie that's just had so few defenders, a big movie.
And I think both Patrick and I tried to go into this with
too.
rose-colored glasses.
I did too.
For me, I think about 20 minutes in was where I left my hope behind.
Yeah. Yep.
A lot of this movie really depends on you thinking Chris Pratt is funny without funny material. And the whole time I wanted to be watching some trash reality TV instead.
Yeah, Love is Blind, also on Netflix.
Right, at least that's entertaining.
I personally don't think Chris Pratt has been funny since
Parks and Rec.
The
I know other people
character is
like
funny.
Guardians of the Galaxy, but I never really loved
I'm a fan of him in that, but
I thought Groot was the best part of that first one. I haven't seen the other 2, though.
It's been beaten to death, and I actually just saw that there was an article where he's even recognizing, like, I'm playing the same character, so hopefully
Bring
he's
Andy back.
realizing it. Yeah. You see these clips pop up, like if you're on Reels or on TikTok or something, of Parks and Rec, and him just being hilarious, and it's like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, where is the disconnect here? And even there's like blooper moments where he's just improvising, and it's hilarious.
It's the calorie deficit.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
We need to bring this fast.
Yeah. We need to bring Judd Apatow back for a Chris Pratt movie. We can get some improv in. But I do want to start with one question or one thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what's kind of been in my head since I saw the movie. I texted Tom about it a little bit. But there's a lot of like technical stuff we can talk about that's really bad, the script, whatever. But really, what struck me as I was watching this film is that I thought it was grotesque.
Oh, okay.
In an existential way. Because I think that what at its heart, why I hated the movie so much, and why it made me want to cancel my Netflix account and just give up on like streaming altogether.
Sure.
And because this movie has no vision, It is it's a movie, it's a new movie based in 2025 that is based in an alternative 1990s, because I couldn't even think of an alternative version of now. It's in an alternative 1990s that is a 90s that is still nostalgic for the 50s. So it's like layers on layers of like nostalgia and kitsch over having anything genuine or interesting to say.
Sure.
And that's like why I was so angry watching the film, and just thinking about $320 million going into this film when, like, you know, an exciting film like Nora or Nickel Boys were up for Academy Awards. They were doing incredibly exciting things,
Right.
but not getting maybe the marketing pushes they deserved. Well, maybe not Nora, but especially like Nickel Boys.
Even Black Bag.
Even Black Bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I'm thinking like, you know, A24 totally dropping the ball on Sing Sing and
Movies
Queer.
with things to say.
Yeah.
Because Electric State is so spineless. It basically asks, would you care about people if they were robots? To which my answer is, I already care about people. I don't need them to be poor robots. It's visually incohesive. Some of these robots look like Fleischer cartoons, and some of them look like war machines, which I can appreciate that, you know, contrast. I can appreciate that, but it's messy. It's messy. And $300 million, you can't afford to be messy.
And you can't even
you can,
see
but
it. Where's the $300 million?
Yeah.
That's what I'm curious about.
I thought the visual effects were pretty impressive, honestly. Like, and not in terms of an artistic point of view, but just like, these are people who work on these projects, and they've put their, like, probably heart and soul and blood and tears and all into this. And it's a bad movie, but like, they've done it, and it's pretty impressive just in terms of the special effects.
I'll argue against that a little bit.
Is it storytelling? Is it helping the storytelling? Certainly not.
Yeah.
But the special effects didn't bother me.
I don't know how much like heart and soul went into the effects though, because if you look at these, I mean, if you look at like how these studios treat, you know, the people who do special effects in films, they're like the lowest.
Certainly.
They're horribly treated. They have these like factories of people that are coding all this stuff. Like, I don't know how much actual thought and love went into any of it.
That was more, it was that was more the point I was making. If anything,
Yeah.
like,
Is that people worked
it's the
hard.
sweat.
I'm not
going
mad at
into
any
it.
of the people. I'm mad at the studio.
Exactly.
I'm mad at the Russo brothers.
Producers.
I'm mad at Netflix and whoever greenlit this film, and also like
That's
Millie
the thing.
Bobby Brown hates films. Let's stop putting her in films. And she's young.
I
and-
wish her all the best with
I
her
agree.
life. I'm sure she's a lovely person.
Agreed.
But you know,
She doesn't deserve the hate she gets. On
No,
her
no,
personal
no.
Certainly not.
She was a young
No.
kid who got really famous.
Yeah.
I'm sure that has had like horrible, you know, repercussions because we know on people's mental health and stuff. But she's not great in this.
Take a
film.
break.
No.
Yeah.
You know, take a break.
I mean-
figure out what you do love.
To your point about Soderbergh, Russo brothers,
Yeah.
maybe not good acting directors.
I mean,
You know.
clearly not.
I think with them, since they work well in television. We can debate the Marvel stuff, but there's a showrunner with the television stuff.
Yeah.
Feige is more or less the showrunner of Marvel.
Most definitely.
Is it that they are guys who can sort of come in and help with the vision, and they don't really have one?
That is certainly now how they are being labeled after these Netflix catastrophes. It's hard to call them that because they are successful on Netflix, but they are catastrophes critically. And their Avengers movies, their Captain America movies, were not necessarily. Like, not everyone
this
loves
one
them.
even has a horrible audience score. The audiences don't like it.
That's
You know, like critics are one thing. Like I get that, like people like us, you know, we watch all of these like tons of films, but people that just want to see a popcorn movie hate it.
Well, and to your
That's
point,
tough.
Tom, they're going back to the well. They're going back to Marvel. They know that's a safe place for them, and hopefully it turns out well. But like, I don't know, this is a bad sign.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is that they did have source material for the Electric State.
Yes,
I
they
found out it was based
yeah.
on an illustrated
Oh,
book.
it looks beautiful.
And it does. It kind of, I'm going to show my nerd here, but Outlaw Star, the anime from like the 90s, early 2000s, it had this beautiful artwork at the end in the closing credits with just this very fantastical robot future. And it's beautiful. And that's kind of what Electric State looked like, just this really beautiful dystopia. And if they had worked with that kind of forlorn vibe, I think it could have been a great success, but that's not what the Russo brothers do. So I think it was a terrible match of source material and filmmakers. So I hope they find their lane and they figure out something that works for them, because, you know, I don't wish anybody ill.
Yeah, I agree. There's a great comp here with Fallout, the TV show that Amazon did, where it's very similar kind of source material, very similar aesthetics, and Fallout was great and funny, and an incredible performance from Walter Goggins, which made it for me. So go watch that instead. Skip Electric State.
Can we talk about performances, though, with the Electric State real quick? Because there is just a smorgasbord of actors in this movie that are phenomenal and have been in amazing things. You've got Stanley Tucci. Colman Domingo has like a 1-minute scene as a screen on a robot. You've got Giancarlo Esposito.
He's the best part of the film.
Kiwi Kwan is in it. Like, we could talk about him. Like, what a bummer of a way to follow up Everything Everywhere All at Once and this resurgence. Like, I wish nothing but the best for him, you know? But, like, this is just...
all the cast,
it's really
all
a bummer.
the crew, everybody, I wish the best. Except for the Russo brothers and Netflix. Stop. Please stop.
And just
and stop taking up all the budgets.
One for them, one for us. You know, like, I hope actors really latch on to that. We were texting earlier about, like, Giancarlo Esposito, for instance. Like, that guy is way too good of an actor to just be doing blockbuster after blockbuster. But I think what I recognize is that this was an actor who, like, he had a really amazing start and was in Spike Lee films, but then he kind of went more TV and lesser known films, and then Breaking Bad happened, and it changed everything. And now he's doing as much as humanly possible. But, like, I just wish he would get pulled into a great indie drama or something, or even a bigger budget drama that really showcases his talent, because he's phoning it in right now. He's very good at playing the bad guy. We know that. But I'd love to see a little bit more variety from him in particular.
Before we go, I just want to highlight a couple films that are newer. They got home video releases that are just two of my favorite films from 2024. And the first one is Sing Sing. It just got this beautiful Blu-ray release from A24. It's an incredible film that I think deserves so much love. The performances are incredible. And the process of making the film was really beautiful, as far as everybody, all the cast in the film and everyone got equity in the film. So everybody got paid the same, including the star of the illustrious Electric State, Colman Domingo. And so you got to see this film. It should have won Academy Awards. Colman Domingo should have been on that stage. Next, I want to highlight Evil Does Not Exist, the new film from Ryusuke Hamaguchi. He directed Drive My Car, that won the Academy Award a few years ago. And it was just one of my favorite films of last year. It went kind of under the radar, but I think that it's an important film and thoroughly enjoyable. It's funny, and it's also meditative and biting at the same time. So with that, thank you for watching Maybe We're Projecting. I appreciate everybody for being here, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.